Well, we had some success against Auburn, but obviously our leading scorer from that game was not available due to an injury. But at the same time, we have a lot of talented guys, so it's an opportunity for some guys to show what they can do. And it didn't go as planned, but we got plenty of action on film. We go to work. We went 30 minutes in film room today, and it's only going to help us improve and to get to where we're trying to get.
What stood out about this opportunity? What made you want to make the move to Oklahoma State?
Yeah, I've had the opportunity to know Coach Lutz for a long time. It was a heck of an opportunity. He's an excellent coach. He's won everywhere he's been, not just as a head coach, but as an assistant. And you can see some of the teams that he was on as an assistant kind of regressed when he left. So that's a credit to him. But I got in the business about the general time frame that he did, so I've known him for a long time from his years as an assistant at Incarnate Word when I got my start in junior college. And when he called with the chance for me to join, it was a no-brainer.
Was it just days on the recruiting trail where you all crossed paths?
Yeah, for sure. And he's been a mentor and a friend all at the same time, so it was a heck of an opportunity.
Here's a funny story. I covered Drury University, so I probably covered some Drury Incarnate Word games back when you coached. Can you talk about how your career evolved, what you know now that you didn't know in 1999, 2000?
Yeah, that's a good question. But basketball's it's a simple game to a certain standpoint. But I've learned something from every coach I've been a part of, and that's when I was a high school assistant or a coach I might have played for in college or high school. But you can always learn every single day. Obviously recruiting has changed a bunch, but you still got to have the relationships. You still got to know who's making the decision. That hasn't changed at all. And at the end of the day, basketball is who can score the most points and who can stop the other team from scoring the most points. So
you mentioned recruiting a little bit earlier. Just Oklahoma State's, you look at, with all due respect to the other schools, but Oklahoma State's Power 4, Power 5. What's it like recruiting here and telling the story of Oklahoma State?
Yeah, it's a rich tradition. Like Coach Iva's son Mo was at practice today. I mean, you can't say that at a lot of other places I've been at. Where legends of a legend is at your practice. But the opportunity to call a kid, they're going to take your call. You're going to take your first call. You don't have to stay on it. They're going to take your first call. They're going to want to hear from Oklahoma State, and so that's definitely new.
You never know where life's journey is going to take you. What was your thoughts of Oklahoma State from afar during those years?
Yeah, I was at Wichita State for about 5 years, so we got to play home and homes, and but again, the rich tradition from Coach Iva's days, but Bryant Reeves and those teams. Obviously, if you're a fan of college basketball, you know how tough and physical they were, and they did a great job of winning. At a place that's you can win a lot of games, but they were able to go to the Final Four under Coach Sutton, and it's just a heck of an opportunity to be a part of this.
You've obviously got a lot of offensive talent on this team. How good can this team be defensively?
Yeah, there's a lot of room for growth with that. We are wired to score, but at the same time, Coach Lutz is going to be very demanding of that in practice, and we just got to keep pounding the rock. It's got to happen organically. You can't force this team to become a great defensive team. It's going to happen over time. With who's going to be the best defensive lineman we have might not be our best offensive lineup. So we're trying to figure that all out right now, and that's a good thing about playing two quality exhibition games, scrimmages, however you want to term it, as opposed to playing a school from a lower level where you're going to have a bunch of success. We can jump in that fire and see what we can do and see what kind of combinations are going to work for us best.
When you first got to see Anthony Roy in person, what stood out about him immediately?
Yeah, he's got an infectious personality, and he'll coach the guys to an extent. Obviously, he's not a coach, but he'll pick them up. He'll try to impart some knowledge on him. He's been around the game for a long time, but he comes to the gym and works, and he doesn't need music. He doesn't have the music blaring when he's working on his game individually. I was really impressed with that. He says all he needs to hear is the ball bouncing and the net swishing. That's the only noise he needs. But he's got a very, very good work ethic, and he really knows the game.
Are you coaching the big men?
Currently, I'm coaching the big men.
Okay. What can you talk about that group and what they've done, and what your goal is to develop them to?
Yeah, they're pretty much everyday guys. They got to be our most physical guys. They got to be our best helpers on the defensive end. And I think they're very, very unselfish at times, and which is a good thing. You know, we can throw it in there and they'll throw it back out. But they got to be the hardest playing and the toughest unit, because they're near the rim the most. They got to be the most physical. They're going to be going against the biggest guys. So we just got to continue to improve on that.
You talked to Ragland a little bit, just that transition. What do you want to see out of him in making his growth?
Yeah, he's probably the youngest guy on the team. He's going against guys that have been around the game for a long time. He's just got to be a sponge, you know, just taking all that knowledge in and then continue to work on his conditioning. You know, he got hurt this summer. He was hurt all last year of his senior year, so it's going to be a little bit of a slower process, but he's got all the tools to become a great player.
Can he step out and hit the three?
Yeah, he for sure can. He's got a skill set that other guys from a big man perspective don't have. They don't shoot it as well as he does, but he's got to learn the nuances of the game, but he's trying to do that every single day.
Is that the toughest place for a young guy, because you are going to be going up against some 23-year-olds and that type of thing that have played?
Yeah, but you know, even the younger guys on the perimeter, you know, it's just a different speed of the game. I'd say the speed and physicality of the game is the hardest thing to adjust to. And again, playing those two quality opponents is only going to speed up their learning curve.
Most of the guys we talked to, they said that their first Steve Lutz practice was an eye-opening experience. As a coach who's probably seen many practices, just where are Steve Lutz practices on the spectrum of easy practice to incredibly difficult practice?
Yeah, he's very demanding, and he sets up a practice that we're going to be very fast-paced. There's not a lot of downtime, which, you know, he's trying to get practice to be harder than the games. You know, so hopefully the game can slow down for him. But he's as good as anybody I've been around. It's demanding, and the way he wants to play offensively. I've never been around a coach that emphasizes the pace of play we want to play at, even on a made bucket. And he's got drills for it, but he's also got the personality and the mentality, like, no, you know, we're not going to play slow.
Everyone speaks the language of basketball, but I want to ask you about the international flavor on this team. What's it like getting this melting pot together on the roster?
Yeah, when they get upset, they kind of speak in their own language, but you know, there's a lot of players all across the country, and we're able to attract, you know, different guys from different nations, and you know, that's initially when you try to understand it, but as you've been around it for a few months, you can understand, you know.
Are they adjusting to the American style of play too, especially
Yeah, for sure.
Europeans?
For sure. It's a universal game, but yeah, they've adjusted pretty well.
You done much international recruiting in your history?
Yeah, a little bit. Everywhere I've been, you know, we've had some international guys I've been a part of, or maybe not the lead recruit, but yeah, it just, there's so many good players all across the globe. You got to be willing to take some guys, you know, from different continents.